Today we're analyzing the beat of B.O.B, Bombs Over Baghdad by OutKast, a hit of their album Stankonia from the year 2000. I have to say this is one of the most energetic drum tracks I've ever heard, and there are a few unusual tricks in here you can use for your own beats. So let's take a look at what makes B.O.B tick. Hello everyone, this is OutKast used simple one-shot samples for this one, but for our version, we'll use a drum plugin that gives us a bit more variation with different samples on each hit, and also different sounds per velocity. We'll need 2 bars, 32 steps. At 153.8 BPM, this is pretty up-tempo for this genre. Let's start with the kick and snare. All these drum hits are on 8th notes, except the last kick, which is pulled ahead by a 16th. This makes it feel almost like it's stumbling and gives it that special bounce. What's missing on the snare is a roll, right here, from the 3 and to the 4. We could put 64th note repeats or quadruple substeps here and here. That's a bit too intense. So let's reduce the velocity. This is the simple option. By the way, if you want to brush up on your drum programming skills, we're starting to write a book over on Patreon, which we're continually updating with new chapters. And the most recent one is about exactly this: substeps, repeats, ratchets and rolls. But there is also a more nuanced alternative to this. Instead of using substeps, I'll zoom in to 4 times magnification. Every step is now a 64th note, so if you're in a DAW, adjust your grid accordingly. And if you get lost, you can always look at the right screen. You can see the entire pattern on there. This is the snare on the 4, and right before, I'll insert all the notes manually. These would have been the 2 quadruple substeps from before, but now I can control the velocity of each note in the roll. I want a subtle wavering at low volume, and then a ramp leading up to the full snare hit on the 4. And, just because we can, let's use 2 different snare sounds. The one we used until now is snare rim shot, and the other one is snare open hit. If you alternate between these during rolls, it can sound a bit more natural. Like this, for example. I'm picking up the steps so they keep their velocities. The steady element in this track is the closed hat. Put 1 on every beat. Maybe a little bit less loud. Next, let's add a shaker. Just put it in the offbeat. This might only be a small addition, but the shaker is actually the MVP of this beat. I'd say it's so essential that without it, the pattern almost entirely loses its drive and groove. Here, take a listen. Next, let's build some more patterns by adding different clap variations. We're using a nice dry Lindrum clap, which complements the acoustic drum kit really well. That one was pretty simple. The next one mirrors the shaker in the offbeat. And there's another clap right before the 3 and, but with less velocity. This sounds a bit too straight though. The rhythm is not snappy enough. What's missing is some swing. Let's solo the claps for a moment. Much better. But if we listen to this in context, we can hear that the swing also messes with the snare roll, and more importantly, with the last kick. So, interestingly, while the swing makes the clap snappier, it has the opposite effect on the kick. If we want to avoid that, we can't simply apply swing globally on all instruments. We have to add it only to the clap. In a DAW, that's no problem. You can just change the grid before placing the claps. But on most sequencers and drum machines, there is no individual swing per track. So let's get rid of this. Instead, we can use micro-timing as a workaround. Swing only affects the even steps, so I'll move those to the right. The third clap variation begins just like this one, so I'll make a copy of the pattern. We just have to change the second bar. Don't forget to microtime the even step to simulate the swing. Here's one of my favorite techniques. We'll just make a few copies of the bass pattern. And now we'll go into each one and selectively mute or remove things to create new variations. Here we'll remove the last 4 steps. That gives the pattern a nice abrupt ending. In the original, this puts emphasis on when he sings the word hot. On this one, we'll completely mute the shaker. This is useful to create some contrast and allow tension to build back up. On the next one, we'll mute the last shaker hit in each bar. That gives it a choppy feeling, and it's kind of a middle ground between the first 2 variations we created. For the last one, we'll mute some sections in the second bar, allowing only a few select hits to come through. This gives it some extra punctuation and creates a different rhythm, almost as if the record was being stopped, which of course fits the lyrics perfectly when he sings "Hold up, slow up, stop, control." Finally, to bring the drum track together and to add more variety, let's take a look at the transitions. These will also be 2 bars long. For the first bar, we'll completely leave out the kick and instead rely on some high-energy snare hits with the hi-hat carrying the beat on. At the beginning of the second bar, we'll continue the snares on each beat and alternate them with some kicks in the offbeat. And now we'll fill those spaces with snare rolls, just like we did in the bass pattern. The only difference is that this time we're not placing quadruple substeps, but triple substeps, so 30-second triplets. The Hapax has this very nice feature where we can change the zoom to a triplet view. Take a look at this kick and this snare. Those 2 are now here and here. What used to be 1 step on the sequencer has now become 3 steps, and we can place our triplets, again alternating between the 2 different snares. And maybe with a medium velocity this time. That gives them enough energy while still leaving some headroom for the main snare hit. Okay, let's go back to normal view. Zoom out. Copy those triplets. And paste them here and here. Done. The other transitions are much simpler, so I've already punched them in and I'll just give you a quick tour. The second transition is basically just the bass pattern. In bar 1 the snare roll is removed, there are a few added kicks, and in bar 2 there's one additional snare. Remove all but these 2 shaker hits. The third transition begins with a rapid-fire snare and kick combo. Notice that there are a few unaccented hits in here. These actually change the rhythm of this segment drastically. Here, listen to it with and without the unaccented hits. The fourth and final transition is pretty simple, just 16th note snare hits. But there's a special twist. Either turn down the pitch of your snare sample during the first bar, or use a pitch shifter for a tape stop-like effect. During the guitar solo, there are some more minor kick and snare variations, and there's a really nice kick-only part, so keep an eye out for those in the end jam or in our transcription. You can find this, along with over 100 more drum pattern transcriptions on our Patreon. Speaking of which, as always, a big shout out to all of our patrons. Thanks to your support, we can keep making these videos.